Young millionaire tosses a paper into the trash can, but a voice says, "Hey, I'm in here," and he goes into a panic. There are moments that divide a life into before and after. For Adam Moore, that moment happened on a winter night, when the world seemed frozen and silent. Adam had always been the kind of man who goes unnoticed, a face in the crowd. Someone who arrives at work early, leaves late, and rarely misses a day. The kind of person others describe as reserved when they're being kind and dull when they're not. His grey suit matched the life he led, organized, predictable, safe. That night, the snow was beginning to fall as he cut through the central square. His steps left temporary marks on the ground that soon disappeared under the white flakes. The place was deserted. Only the streetlights cast yellowish circles against the growing darkness. Adam found a crumpled piece of paper in his pocket, notes from a meeting that no longer mattered. He stopped in front of a public trash can and tossed the paper in. A simple gesture, one he made almost every day. That's when he heard it. "Hey, I'm in here." The voice was so small, so fragile, that for a moment, Adam thought he had imagined it. He looked around. No one. The square remained empty, except for the wind that swayed the bare branches of the trees. "Hello?" he asked into the air, feeling foolish. Silence. "Then I'm here." The voice was coming from the trash can. Adam felt his heart race as he slowly approached. He leaned over and looked inside. Amidst crumpled papers and empty wrappers, two enormous eyes stared back at him. A child's eyes. "My God!" he exclaimed, taking a step back. Inside the trash can was a small girl, no more than 4 years old. Dirty, with tangled dark hair and clothes far too thin for the biting cold. She was curled up like a frightened little animal, hugging her own knees. "What are you doing in there?" Adam asked, his voice coming out louder than he intended. The girl didn't move. She just kept looking at him with those eyes too large for her thin face. "I got in here because it was cold," she answered simply. Adam looked around, desperately searching for someone, parents, a nanny, any responsible adult. But the square remained deserted, and the snow was falling harder now. "Where are your parents?" he asked, crouching down to get closer. The girl didn't answer. A shiver ran through her small body. "You're freezing," Adam said, taking off his coat without a second thought. "Let's get you out of there." Carefully, he reached his arms into the trash can. For a moment, he thought she would pull back, that she would be afraid of him, a stranger. But the girl lifted her arms towards him, in a gesture of trust so pure it caught him off guard. When he lifted her out, he realized how light she was. Her body trembled under the oversized coat he had placed on her shoulders. Her face was smudged with dirt, her lips slightly blue from the cold. "What's your name?" he tried again, adjusting her in his arms. The girl just looked down without answering. The snow was heavier now, falling in thick flakes that stuck to the coat, to the girl's hair, to Adam's eyebrows. The temperature must have been below freezing. "I need to call the police," he said, more to himself than to her. The effect was immediate. The girl shrank in his arms, clinging to his shirt with her icy little hands. "Tanatsu," she murmured, fear evident in her voice. The wind howled between the buildings now, bringing more cold, more snow. Adam felt the girl shiver against his chest. He took his phone out of his pocket. The correct procedure would be to call the authorities. He had found an abandoned child. This was a matter for the police, for social services. But something in her eyes stopped him from making the call. There was fear there, yes, but there was also something else, a trust, a hope that he, of all people, had awakened. How was that possible? Adam was never a man of impulsive decisions. His life was made of calculated choices, of measured risks, every step planned in advance. But in that moment, looking at the child that fate had placed in his path, something shifted inside him. An inexplicable certainty filled his chest. He couldn't leave her there, nor hand her over to strangers on this cold night. "It's okay," he said softly. "Let's go to my place. You need to get warm." The girl didn't smile, didn't thank him. She just rested her head on his shoulder, as if it were the safest place in the world. Adam started walking, shielding her as best he could from the wind and snow. His mind raced in 1,000 directions. What was he doing? What was this madness? Taking an unknown child home? And then what? What would he say to her, to others, to himself? He had no answers to any of these questions. He only knew that, in that moment, he was doing the only thing that felt right. The city around them carried on its normal rhythm. Cars passed occasionally, their headlights cutting through the darkness. Hurried people walked with umbrellas and heads bowed, not noticing the man carrying a child through the snow. Adam felt the weight of the girl in his arms, not just the physical weight, which was minimal, but the weight of the responsibility he had just taken on. A weight that, strangely, did not crush him. On the contrary, it gave him a purpose he didn't know he needed. "It's going to be okay," he murmured, unsure if he was reassuring the girl or himself. She didn't answer. Her small body had relaxed a bit, though she still shivered occasionally. The city lights shone through the curtain of snow, creating an almost magical scene around them. Adam kept walking, his steps leaving deep prints in the accumulating snow. He had no idea what he would do next. He didn't know how he would explain this to anyone. He didn't understand the impulse that drove him to act so contrary to everything he knew about himself. He only knew he couldn't do otherwise. And as he moved through the night, against the wind and the snow, Adam Moore, the man who had always lived by numbers and logic, followed the only path his heart would allow, carrying in his arms not just a lost child, but the beginning of a new life for both of them. Adam's apartment had never felt as alive as it did that night, not because of its size. It was spacious, with 3 bedrooms and a view of the park, but because of the unexpected presence now occupying his couch. The girl sat quietly, wrapped in the softest blanket Adam could find. Her small hands held a mug of hot chocolate, still too big for her. She had taken a quick bath with his clumsy help, and he had improvised one of his t-shirts as a pajama. The shirt swallowed her tiny body, but at least she was clean and warm. The silence between them wasn't awkward, but it was heavy with questions. Adam watched the girl with a mixture of concern and fascination. Who would leave a child alone in the cold? Why had she hidden in a trash can instead of asking for help? And most importantly, what would he do now? "Are you feeling better?" he finally asked, sitting in the armchair across from the couch. The girl nodded, her enormous eyes studying every corner of the apartment as if memorizing escape routes. "You don't have to be scared," Adam continued, keeping his voice calm. "No one is going to hurt you here." She lowered her gaze to the mug, her fingers tightening around it as if it were an anchor. "Can you tell me what happened?" Adam tried again. "How did you end up in that trash can?" For a long moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, without looking up, the girl spoke. "My mum said she was coming back, and she never came back." Her voice was as small as she was, but the words hit Adam like a punch. He felt a lump form in his throat. "Your mum left you in the square." The girl nodded, taking a sip of the chocolate. "She said she was going to buy food," she continued, the words coming more easily now. "She told me to wait on the bench, that she'd be right back." Adam leaned forward, trying to process what he was hearing. "And you waited?" "3 days, she answered, as if stating something commonplace. "I slept on the bench. It was sunny during the day." Adam closed his eyes for a moment, trying to control the wave of anger he felt. 3 days. A 4-year-old child alone on a park bench for 3 days. "Did no one stop to help you?" he asked, unable to believe it. The girl shrugged. A strangely adult gesture for someone so small. "People walked far away. I think I was dirty." Adam took a deep breath. The big city could be a cruel place. People in a hurry, looking at their phones, ignoring a child because she looked dirty. The thought made him sick. "And why did you hide in the trash can?" "It started getting really cold yesterday," she explained, her logic simple and direct. "The wind hurt. There was no wind in the trash can." Adam felt something shift inside him, a warmth in his chest he couldn't explain, an almost physical need to protect this child. "You did the right thing," he said, surprising himself. "That was smart. Hiding from the cold was a good idea." A small glimmer appeared in her eyes, the first positive reaction he had seen. "What's going to happen now?" she asked, the worry returning to her face. "Are you going to take me away?" Adam hesitated. The logical answer was yes, he should take her to the authorities in the morning. It was the correct, responsible procedure. But the thought of handing her over to the system, of watching her disappear behind institutional doors, caused him an unexpected anguish. "Not today," he finally answered. "Today, you're going to sleep here, where it's safe and warm. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." She nodded, seeming satisfied with the answer. "Then what's your name?" Adam asked, realizing he still didn't know it. The girl set down the empty mug, and for the first time, a small smile appeared on her face. "Mommy called me Emily," she said. "She would sing my name when I went to sleep." Emily, Emily, Emily. The simplicity of the memory, the way her eyes lit up as she said her own name, touched Adam in a way he didn't expect. "Emily," he repeated. "That's a beautiful name." "What's your name?" she asked, seeming more comfortable now. Adam Moore." "Adam," she repeated, testing the sound. "Do you live alone in this big house?" "Yes," he replied, looking around as if seeing his apartment for the first time. "Just me?" "No others?" Emily asked, her childish curiosity beginning to emerge. "No kids?" "No," Adam smiled. "I don't have any children. And a dog." "Not one of those either." Emily seemed to consider this seriously, as if evaluating his quality of life based on the absence of children and dogs. "That's why it's so quiet here," she finally concluded. Adam laughed, a genuine laugh he hadn't had in a long time. "I guess so," he agreed. "Sasha, it's very quiet." The clock on the wall read almost midnight. Emily yawned, the exhaustion finally overcoming the adrenaline of the day. "Let's get a place for you to sleep," Adam said, getting up. His apartment had 3 bedrooms, his, an office, and a guest room he rarely used. "I have a spare room," he explained as they walked down the hall. "You can sleep there." The guest room was simple but clean, a twin bed with a blue comforter, a dresser, and a small desk. The white walls and lack of decoration revealed how little the space was used. "You can sleep in this room," Adam said, turning on the heater to chase away the chill. "Now we'll figure things out later." Emily entered timidly, her eyes scanning every detail of the room as if she couldn't believe it. "Can I really stay here?" she asked, her voice full of surprise. "Yes," Adam confirmed. "For now, this place is yours." He helped her onto the bed and covered her with the duvet. Emily sank into the pillows, looking tiny in the full-sized bed. "Good night, Emily," he said, not quite sure how to say goodbye. "Good night, Adam," she replied, her eyes already heavy with sleep. Careful not to wake her, Adam left, leaving the door ajar. He stopped in the hallway and listened for a moment. Soon her breathing became deeper and more regular. She was asleep. Back in the living room, Adam sat on the couch, his mind buzzing with thoughts, worries, and, surprisingly, plans. He needed clothes for Emily, proper food for a child, maybe some toys. He needed to find out more about her past, try to understand what had happened, and eventually he would need to decide what to do. The logical option was still to contact the authorities, but something inside him resisted that idea. What if Emily ended up in a worse place? What if she was mistreated? What if he never saw her again? This last thought surprised him. Why did he care so much about a child he barely knew? When he finally went to his room to sleep, his sleep was restless, full of dreams about empty benches in deserted squares. The morning arrived with the sound of small footsteps in the apartment. Adam woke up to find Emily standing by his bedroom window, watching the snow-covered city outside. The large t-shirt that served as pajamas made her look even smaller. "Good morning," Adam said, sitting up in bed. She turned, studying him with those large, serious eyes. "Good morning," she replied politely. "There's a lot of snow." "Yes, it snowed all night," Adam agreed, getting up. "Are you hungry?" Emily nodded, following him to the kitchen. Breakfast was a revelation for Adam. His culinary repertoire was limited, but he managed to make scrambled eggs, toast, and orange juice. He watched fascinated as Emily ate with appetite, her eyes occasionally glancing up to check if he was still there. "I'm going out for a few hours today," he explained as he washed the dishes, "to buy some things for you." Fear immediately returned to her eyes. "Tears, are you coming back?" she asked, her voice betraying her insecurity. Adam stopped what he was doing and knelt down to her level. "I'm coming back, Emily. I promise I won't leave you alone." She studied him for a long moment, as if assessing the truthfulness of his words. "Okay," she said finally. "Tight, I'll wait. Actually," Adam continued, "I was wondering if you'd like to come with me. We need to buy clothes in your size, and you could choose." Emily's face lit up, and for the first time, Adam saw a genuine smile. "Can I really?" "Of course," he replied, feeling a strange happiness at her reaction. "We'll go shopping together." The shopping mall was crowded, as always on a Saturday. Adam held Emily's hand firmly as they navigated through the people. She wore one of his t-shirts as a dress, with a makeshift belt to keep it in place. It wasn't ideal, but it would work until they bought proper clothes. The first stop was a department store. Adam had never been in the children's section before and felt completely lost among the sizes, styles, and colors. "Can I help you?" a saleswoman asked, noticing his discomfort. "We need everything," Adam replied, gesturing to Emily. "Clothes, shoes, pajamas." The saleswoman smiled at Emily, who partially hid behind Adam's leg. "Your daughter is adorable," the woman commented. "How old is she?" Adam hesitated for only a second. 4 years old, he answered, not correcting the misunderstanding. "And yes, we need a lot of things." The next 2 hours were a surreal experience. Adam, who usually bought only the essentials and hated malls, found himself fascinated by Emily's transformation. With each new outfit she tried on, she seemed to gain a little more confidence. A blue dress, in particular, elicited a look of pure joy from her that made Adam's heart ache. "You look beautiful," he said sincerely, as she twirled to show off the dress. Emily smiled, a smile that lit up her entire face. "Can I get it?" she asked timidly. "Of course," Adam replied. "And we'll get a few more things too." When they left the store, they were carrying bags full of clothes, shoes, socks, and even some hair bows. The next stop was a toy store, where Adam let Emily choose a few items. She selected a teddy bear, some coloring books, and after much hesitation, a simple doll. "Are you sure you don't want anything else?" Adam asked, surprised by her modest choices. Emily shook her head, hugging the bear against her chest. "This is enough," she replied. "Thank you." There was a gratitude in her voice that broke Adam's heart. A 4-year-old child shouldn't be so grateful for basic things. On the way back to the apartment, they stopped at a supermarket to buy food. Adam, who usually ate whatever or ordered delivery, now found himself studying labels and looking for healthy options. Emily helped him, pointing to colorful fruits and vegetables. "Do you like apples?" Adam asked. "I love them," Emily replied. "And strawberries too. Then we'll get both." When they finally returned to the apartment, it was late afternoon. Emily was visibly tired, but her eyes shone in a way they hadn't before. Adam took all the shopping bags to the guest room, which for now would serve as Emily's sanctuary. Together, they organized the new clothes in the dresser and placed the toys on the small desk. That night, after a simple dinner, Adam walked Emily to her room. She wore one of the new pajamas, pink with little stars, and seemed more relaxed than before. "Are you okay?" Adam asked, as she settled into bed with her teddy bear. Emily nodded, looking around the room which, though simple, was probably better than many places she had slept before. "Emily," Adam began, choosing his words carefully, "do you know your mum's full name, or where you lived before?" The joy vanished from her face, replaced by a thoughtful expression. "Mummy's name is Chelsea," she replied. "We lived in a lot of places. In people's houses, sometimes in the car." Adam nodded, trying not to show his concern. The situation seemed even more complicated than he had imagined. "And your dad?" Emily shrugged. "I never met him." Adam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility he had taken on. "Okay," he said softly. "Don't worry about that now. It's time to sleep." He tucked the covers around her and hesitated, not exactly sure how to say goodbye. "Good night, Emily," he said finally. "Good night, Adam," she replied, her eyes already closing. When he left the room, leaving the door ajar, Adam stopped in the hallway. His apartment, always so quiet, now seemed different. There were shopping bags scattered about, toys in unexpected places, and a smell of home-cooked food that had never been there before. In just one day, everything had changed. His routine, his space, his priorities, and somehow, that didn't bother him. Sitting in the living room with a cup of tea he rarely drank, Adam realized that something inside him was also changing. A door he didn't even know was closed was beginning to open. The apartment wasn't just fuller, it was more alive, and, perhaps, so was he. A week had passed since Emily arrived at Adam's apartment. 7 days that transformed not only the physical space, but something deeper that Adam still couldn't name. The first change was visual. What were once pristine white walls now displayed colorful drawings, taped up at heights only a child could choose. Stick figures, a larger one and a smaller one, holding hands, appeared in almost all of them. "That's you and me," Emily explained when Adam asked, as if it were obvious. In the refrigerator, once empty except for leftover takeout and a few beers, there were now apples, milk, yogurt, and those little juice boxes that Emily loved. The kitchen table, once used only as a mail drop, now had crayon marks and cookie crumbs. That Sunday morning, Adam watched Emily draw at the coffee table in the living room. Concentrated, her tongue sticking out of the corner of her mouth, she traced colorful lines on a sheet of paper. Her hair, once tangled, was now clean and styled in a simple braid that Adam had learned to do by watching online tutorials. "What are you drawing?" he asked, sitting on the sofa next to her. "A house," Emily replied without looking up. "With a garden." "And a swing," Adam smiled. In the last few days, he had learned more about Emily's tastes. She loved strawberries, hated peas, and had a fascination with swings. At the park near the apartment, she could spend hours on the swing asking to go higher, higher. "It looks like a great house," he commented, looking at the drawing full of vibrant colors and impossible proportions. Emily finally looked up, her large eyes studying Adam's face with an intensity that sometimes unnerved him. "Have you always lived alone?" she asked suddenly. The question caught Adam off guard. It was strange how Emily could do that, ask seemingly simple questions that touched on deep points. "No," he replied, trying to keep his voice casual. "I've lived with other people before." "With who?" Adam hesitated. How to explain his life to a 4-year-old child? "And when I was a kid, I lived with my parents. Then in college, I shared an apartment with friends, and later..." He paused, deciding how much to reveal. "I lived with someone I loved." Emily dropped her crayon and turned completely towards him, the drawing temporarily forgotten. "And where are all those people now?" Adam took a deep breath. Emily's questions were like little projectiles, too accurate. "My parents live far away in another city. My college friends went their own ways, and the person I loved..." He chose his words carefully. "We decided to go our separate ways." Emily seemed to consider this seriously, frowning in concentration. "Do you miss them?" "Sometimes," Adam admitted. It was easier to be honest with Emily than it would be with an adult. There was no judgment in her eyes, only pure curiosity. "So why do you live alone?" The question hung in the air, simple and devastating. "I thought I liked the silence," he finally replied. "Having my own space, doing things my way." "And do you?" Adam looked around the room. The toys scattered on the floor, the drawings on the walls, Emily's presence filling spaces he didn't even know were empty. "I think I was wrong about the silence," he said, surprised by his own honesty. Emily nodded, as if he had confirmed something she already knew. She returned to her drawing, picking up a red crayon to color the roof of the house. "Your house isn't silent anymore," she commented casually. "No," Adam agreed. "It's not." And he realized, with sudden clarity, that the silence he had always considered a comfort now sounded like loneliness, like a void he hadn't noticed until it was filled. Afternoons with Emily had an almost magical quality. After Adam came home from work, now leaving promptly at 5, to the astonishment of his colleagues, they developed little rituals. Emily would tell him about her day with the nanny Adam had hired, a kind elderly woman named Martha, who took care of her while he was at the office. Then they would prepare dinner together, with Emily on a stool to reach the counter. "So can I cut the tomato?" she asked that night, as Adam prepared spaghetti. "Better not," he replied, giving her a wooden spoon instead. "But you can stir the sauce." Emily accepted the task seriously, stirring the red sauce with total concentration. Adam watched her out of the corner of his eye, amazed at how something so simple could seem so significant now. Dinner was always full of questions. Emily seemed to have an endless supply of them. Why is the sky blue? How do birds know where to fly? Where does the water go when we flush the toilet? Adam tried to answer as best he could, sometimes needing to look things up on his phone to be sure. Emily listened attentively, absorbing information like a sponge. After dinner, there was the bath ritual, which inevitably ended with more water outside the tub than in it, and then the moment to brush their teeth side by side in the bathroom. Adam never imagined that watching a small child try to brush her own teeth could be so endearing. Bedtime was special. Although Adam had no children's books, he began to invent stories for Emily. Stories about brave princesses, friendly dragons, and children who discovered magical worlds. Emily listened, mesmerized, her eyes struggling to stay open until the end. "One more story?" she always asked. "Tomorrow," Adam would reply, tucking the covers around her. "Now it's time to sleep." When he closed the bedroom door, leaving it ajar as Emily preferred, Adam felt something strange in his chest, a mixture of protection, affection, and fear. Fear of not doing enough. Fear that someone would come for her. Fear of what life would be like if she left. On a Wednesday evening, while washing the dinner dishes, Adam heard a noise in the living room. He found Emily standing on a chair she had dragged to the wall, trying to tape up another drawing. "Hey, be careful," he said, rushing to help her. "You could fall." "I want to put it higher," Emily explained. "To make a sky." Adam lifted her by the waist, allowing her to stick the drawing at the desired height. "What is it?" he asked, looking at the tangle of blue lines and colorful dots. "It's us looking at the stars," Emily replied. "You said you would take me to see real stars one day." Adam smiled, remembering the promise made casually days before. Emily forgot nothing. "And I will," he confirmed, "when the weather gets better." He put her back on the floor and watched as she ran to get another drawing. The wall was becoming completely covered, an explosion of colors and shapes that was transforming the minimalist apartment into something entirely new. Later, sitting on the couch watching an animated movie, Emily rested her head on Adam's arm, a simple, almost unnoticed gesture. But for Adam, it represented something profound. Trust. He looked at the girl that fate had placed in his path, her dark hair falling over her face, her attentive eyes fixed on the television, her little legs dangling in the air. When he had found her, she was dirty, scared, suspicious. Now, just 2 weeks later, she leaned against him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The bond between them was growing, without fanfare, without grand declarations. Just small moments, simple questions, shared routines, like roots that deepen silently beneath the earth. Adam realized he could no longer imagine the apartment without Emily's drawings on the walls, without her toys scattered about, without her impossible questions, without her. The house had life now, and, for the first time in a long time, so did he. The night fell silently over the city. The moon, almost full, cast soft shadows through Adam's apartment. It was almost 2 in the morning when he finally fell asleep, exhausted after a particularly intense day at work. Sleep came quickly and deeply, without dreams, until a sound tore him from unconsciousness. A muffled scream, followed by hurried footsteps in the hallway. Adam opened his eyes, disoriented for a moment. The bedroom door creaked open, letting in a beam of light from the hallway. "Adam?" Emily's voice was small and trembling. He sat up in bed, turning on the bedside lamp. Emily stood in the doorway, her tiny body shaking. She wore the unicorn pajamas they had bought over the weekend, and she was hugging her teddy bear tightly. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes wide with fear. "Emily, what happened?" he asked, instantly alert. She didn't answer. She just ran to the bed and climbed up with surprising agility, clinging to Adam as if her life depended on it. Her small body trembled against his chest. "Hey, it's okay," Adam murmured, hugging her automatically. But was it a nightmare? Emily nodded against his shoulder, not letting go of her hug. Adam could feel the tears soaking his t-shirt, the tremor that ran through her body. "Do you want to tell me what you dreamed about?" he asked softly, stroking her hair. For a long moment, Emily didn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was so low that Adam had to lean in to hear. "I dreamed I was back on the bench, alone. It was snowing a lot, more than before. And I called and called out, but no one came." Adam felt a tightness in his chest. In recent days, Emily had rarely mentioned the bench where she was abandoned. He had even hoped wishfully that maybe she was forgetting. Apparently, the fear had only been hiding beneath the surface. "It was just a dream," he tried to reassure her. "You're safe here." Emily pulled away a little, just enough to look into Adam's eyes. Her little face was serious, her eyes still bright with tears. "Are you going to disappear too?" The question hit Adam like a punch. 4 simple words that carried the weight of an abandonment no child should ever know. 4 words that revealed the fear that lived inside her, day after day, even as she drew colorful houses and laughed at cartoons. In that moment, Adam fully understood what it meant to have Emily in his life. It wasn't just about providing a roof, food, clothes. It was much more. It was promising presence, constancy, emotional security. He held Emily's small hands in his. They were so small, so vulnerable. How could anyone abandon this child? "Emily, look at me," he said, keeping his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "I'm here. I'll stay." Her eyes studied his face, searching for signs of a lie or hesitation. Adam held her gaze, letting her see the truth in his eyes. "Promise?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I promise." It was a simple promise, just 2 syllables. But Adam felt its weight, the responsibility. And, surprisingly, he wasn't afraid. For the first time in years, commitment didn't scare him. On the contrary, it seemed the only possible path. Emily continued to look at him for a few more seconds, as if assessing the sincerity of the promise. Then, slowly, the tension began to leave her body. Her shoulders relaxed, her breathing became more regular. "Can I stay here?" she asked, already settling against the pillow. "Of course," Adam replied, "just for tonight." But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be just one night. It was a turning point, a boundary crossed. He lay down next to Emily, who immediately snuggled closer, the teddy bear squeezed between them. Adam pulled the comforter over them and turned off the lamp. In the dark, he could hear Emily's breathing, getting calmer and calmer. The storm of fear had passed, at least for now. "Adam?" Her voice came softly in the darkness. "Yes. Do you think she'll come back one day?" Adam closed his eyes. He knew exactly who Emily was talking about. The question he asked himself every night, as he thought about what would happen if Emily's mother reappeared. "I don't know, Emily," he answered honestly. "But no matter what happens, you won't be alone again. I promise you that." Emily was silent for so long that Adam thought she had fallen asleep. Then her voice came again, even softer. "Okay." 2 simple words that carried a world of meaning. An acceptance, a beginning of trust. Adam watched as Emily finally gave in to sleep, her face relaxing, her long eyelashes resting on her cheeks, still marked by dried tears. He felt a wave of protection so intense it almost hurt. In the past few weeks, since he had found Emily in that trash can, his life had completely changed. At first, he told himself it was temporary, that he would find her family or a suitable place for her to stay, that he would return to his normal, organized, predictable life. But now, looking at the sleeping girl beside him, Adam knew there was no going back. He didn't want to go back. The life he had before now seemed empty, like a house without furniture, functional, but without purpose or warmth. Emily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible. Instinctively, Adam stroked her hair, a gesture that had already become natural. She sighed and went back to sleep deeply, the fear of the nightmare apparently forgotten. Outside the room, The world continued on, cars occasionally passing on the street, the distant hum of the city that never completely sleeps. But there, in that small space between them, something new had formed. A silent commitment, a mutual promise. Emily was beginning to trust that she wouldn't be abandoned again. And Adam, surprisingly, found himself wanting to be worthy of that trust, not out of obligation or pity, but because something inside him had changed, grown, opened up. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of Emily's small hand still holding his, even in her sleep. An anchor, a connection. "I'll stay," he whispered again, more to himself than to her. And for the first time in a long time, Adam slept without restlessness, without the vague feeling that something was missing in his life. The silence of the apartment, once a sterile comfort, was now filled by Emily's soft breathing and a growing certainty in Adam's heart. He wasn't just taking care of Emily. They were taking care of each other. The month of March arrived with the first signs of spring. Small green buds appeared on the trees in the park, and the sun occasionally broke through the clouds, bringing a timid warmth. Adam and Emily had established a comfortable routine, a small world of two that functioned with surprising harmony. That Saturday afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table, Adam was preparing work reports while Emily drew. It was an arrangement they both enjoyed, the quiet companionship, each at their own task, occasionally exchanging glances or comments. Adam looked up from his laptop when Emily pushed a piece of paper towards him. "Yeah, look what I made," she said, with that particular pride children have for their creations. Adam looked at the drawing. As always, Emily had drawn two figures holding hands, her and him, as they appeared in almost all her drawings. But this time, there was a third person, a woman with a blue dress and long dark hair, similar to Emily's. "Who is it?" Adam asked, though he already knew the answer. Emily pointed to the figure with a serious expression. "It's Mommy. She must be looking for me." Adam felt a tightness in his chest. In recent weeks, Emily rarely spoke of her mother. She had adapted so well to her new life that he sometimes almost forgot the temporary situation they were in. "It's a very beautiful drawing," he commented, keeping his voice neutral. "Do you remember what your mom's face looked like?" Emily frowned in concentration. "She was pretty," she finally replied, "and she sang to me to sleep." "What else do you remember about her?" "She wore that blue dress when she had to ask for money on the street. She said it was her lucky dress." Adam nodded, trying to fit this new piece of information with the little he knew. A young woman named Chelsea, who lived on the streets with her daughter, who owned only one special blue dress, who had abandoned her 4-year-old daughter on a park bench during the winter. "Do you miss her?" he asked carefully. Emily was silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on the drawing. "Sometimes," she finally replied, "but now I have you." The simplicity of the answer hit Adam hard. He swallowed, trying to ignore the wave of emotion that washed over him. "Yes, you do," he confirmed, reaching out to stroke her hair. Emily smiled and returned to her drawing, seemingly satisfied. But Adam could no longer concentrate on his work. He looked at the drawing, and a certainty grew within him. He had to find Chelsea, not because he wanted to return Emily. The thought of being separated from her now was unthinkable, but because they both deserved answers. Emily needed to know why she had been abandoned, and Adam needed to understand who he was dealing with. What kind of person would leave a child alone in the cold? And, although he tried not to think about it, there was the real possibility that Chelsea would return one day, looking for her daughter. He needed to be prepared for that. When Emily finally fell asleep that night, Adam sat in the living room with his laptop. He didn't know where to start. He had only a first name, Chelsea, and the knowledge that she and Emily had lived on the streets, sometimes sleeping in a car. He started by searching for homeless shelters in the city. There were dozens, some specific to women with children. He made a list, planning to visit each one. He also looked for support groups, social assistance organizations, soup kitchens, any place where homeless people might seek help. It would be a discreet search. He didn't want to involve the authorities, at least not yet. The fear of losing Emily to the foster care system was still very real. Adam closed his laptop past midnight, rubbing his tired eyes. It would be a difficult, possibly futile search, but he had to try. For Emily, and also for himself. The following days brought more clues about Emily's past, little stories that emerged at the most unexpected moments. During her bath, as Adam shampooed her hair, she commented casually, "Mommy and I used to take baths in the mall bathrooms sometimes." She said it was an adventure. At the park, watching a young couple with a baby, Mommy said I was the best gift she ever got, but sometimes she cried at night when she thought I was asleep. At bedtime, as Adam tucked her in, "We used to sleep in the car when it rained. It was small, but Mommy would make a fort with blankets." Each revelation was like a piece of a puzzle. Adam collected them mentally, trying to form a picture of the life Emily had before, a life of deprivation, certainly, of cold and hunger, but also, apparently, of love. The idea confused him. How could someone who loved her daughter abandon her? The following Sunday, Adam took Emily to the zoo. She had never seen most of the animals in person, only in books or on television. Her joy was contagious, running from one enclosure to another, asking endless questions. Do lions sleep in beds? Do giraffes get sore necks? Do monkeys have a mommy and daddy like us? Adam answered patiently, amazed by her insatiable curiosity. They stopped for a snack at the zoo's cafeteria. While Emily nibbled on a sandwich, her eyes followed a family at the next table, a father, a mother, and 2 small children. "Do you have a mommy and daddy, Adam?" she asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. "I do," he replied. "They live far from here." "Are they nice?" Adam smiled, thinking of his parents, who called religiously every Sunday night. "They are, yes. I think you'd like them." Emily considered this seriously as she drank her juice. "Mommy used to say my daddy was a prince who had to go away to a faraway place," she said finally. "Yes, but I think that was just a story." Adam nodded, feeling a pang of sadness for the premature disillusionment in Emily's tone. "Sometimes grown-ups tell stories because the truth is complicated," he explained gently. Emily shrugged. "It's okay. I have you now." There it was again, that simple, absolute trust that always left him speechless. The next morning, Adam began his search. He used his lunch break to visit a homeless shelter a few blocks from his office. A middle-aged social worker with kind eyes and a tired expression listened to his story attentively. "I can't provide information about our clients," she explained politely. "Yeah, but I can ask if anyone knows this person." Adam showed her a photo of Emily that he kept in his wallet. "The mother's name is Chelsea. I don't know her last name. She has dark hair, probably in her 20s. She used to wear a blue dress when she panhandled." The woman nodded, jotting down the information. "Leave your contact information. If I find anything, I'll get in touch." Adam thanked her and left without much hope. It would be a long search. In the following days, he visited 3 more shelters, a soup kitchen that served free meals, and even a mobile clinic that served the homeless. In each place, he left the same description, the same photo, the same phone number. In none did he get concrete answers. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, Emily mentioned casually, "Mommy knew how to make soup out of anything. She said it was magic." Adam looked at her, interested. "Really? What kind of soup?" "With things we were given," Emily replied, setting the table carefully. "Or that we found. She would make it in a can with a small fire." Adam imagined the scene, a young woman cooking in a can over a makeshift fire, trying to feed her daughter with the little she had. The image was painful. "She seemed very smart," he commented, keeping his voice light. "She was," Emily smiled, "proud. So she knew how to do a lot of things." After dinner, while Emily watched a cartoon, Adam searched on his laptop for areas of the city where homeless people tended to gather. There were a few known spots, under specific bridges, near certain overpasses, in certain parks. He made a new list, planning to visit each of these places in the coming days. As he closed his laptop, his eyes fell on the drawing Emily had made. The 3 figures holding hands, the woman in the blue dress. It was now taped to the refrigerator, among so many other drawings. Who was this woman really? What had led her to live on the streets with a small child, What had made her abandon her daughter? Was she sorry now, looking for Emily as the girl believed? And if she was, what would that mean for them? Adam sighed, feeling the weight of the responsibility he had taken on. Every day that passed, his bond with Emily grew stronger. The thought of losing her was too painful to contemplate, but he couldn't run from the truth. Emily had a mother, a history before him, and he needed to find out what it was. The next morning, before leaving for work, Adam looked at Emily eating her breakfast. She was smiling, swinging her little legs under the chair, telling him about a dream she'd had about pink elephants. "I have to work late today," Adam said, hating the small lie. "Martha will stay with you until I get back." Emily nodded, used to the routine with the nanny. "Okay, we're going to make cookies today." Adam smiled and kissed the top of her head. "Save some for me." Leaving the apartment, he felt his determination grow. He would visit the first place on the list today, and he would keep searching until he found answers. For Emily, who deserved to know the truth about her past, and for himself, who needed to understand the future that awaited them. A silent search, without promises, without stated expectations. Just the need to complete a story that had begun on a cold park bench marked, where a child had waited for 3 days for someone who never returned. After 3 weeks of searching, Adam still hadn't found any concrete trace of Chelsea. He had visited shelters, social assistance centers, spoken with homeless people, but no one seemed to have precise information about Emily's mother. Some vaguely remembered a young woman with a child, others mentioned a blue dress, but nothing solid enough to follow up on. It was during this search that Adam realized something he should have noticed before. Emily had no documents, no birth certificate, no health insurance card, no school records, nothing that officially proved her existence. Initially, Adam thought about just continuing as they were. After all, things were working well. Emily was happy, safe, adapting to a normal life. Martha, the nanny, took care of her during his work hours, and the two were developing a routine that seemed to work for both of them. But then came the fever. It started on a Tuesday night. Emily was quiet during dinner, her normally rosy face now pale, except for red blotches on her cheeks. "Are you feeling okay?" Adam asked, noticing she had barely touched her food. Emily just shook her head, a rare occurrence for such a talkative child. When he touched her forehead, Adam felt the heat immediately. She was burning up. The initial panic was followed by action. A lukewarm bath, children's fever reducer he had bought for his small home first aid kit, fluids, everything he had learned from his frantic research on childcare in the first weeks with Emily. But when the fever didn't break after a few hours, Adam knew they needed medical help. The pediatric emergency room was crowded, as always. Crying children, worried parents, the familiar atmosphere of anxiety that pervades emergency rooms. When it was finally their turn, the nurse looked at Emily with professional sympathy. "Full name?" she asked, ready to type into the system. "Emily," Adam replied, suddenly realizing the problem. "Emily Moore." The nurse nodded, not noticing his hesitation. "Sad date of birth?" Adam froze. He had no idea when Emily was born. They had never talked about it. I'm not sure of the exact date," he admitted. "She's 4 years old." The nurse looked up, now more attentive. "Health insurance card? Any identification?" "I didn't bring anything," Adam said, his anxiety growing. "It was an emergency." The nurse studied him for a moment, then looked at Emily, who was curled up in Adam's lap, clearly sick. "Are you her father?" The question Adam had been dreading. "I'm her guardian now," he replied, opting for a partial truth. "We're in the process of regularizing her custody." It wasn't exactly a lie, just an intention that had just formed. The nurse watched him for a few more seconds, then sighed. "We'll treat the child first, sort out the paperwork later, but you'll need to regularize this, sir." "Yes, I know, thank you." Emily was treated, medicated, and diagnosed with a throat infection. Nothing serious, but it could have been worse without treatment. When they returned home, with Emily finally sleeping thanks to the medication, Adam sat in the living room with a clarity he hadn't felt before. Emily needed to exist officially, She needed documents, records, a place in the system that would protect her. The next morning, after leaving Emily with Martha, Adam didn't go to the office. Instead, he drove to the courthouse, determined to start the legal process. The building was imposing, cold, full of identical corridors and closed doors. Adam felt small there, lost among signs and confusing directions. He finally found the Family and Children's Division. A middle-aged woman with glasses on the tip of her nose listened to his story with an impenetrable expression. "Let me get this straight," she said when Adam finished. "You found an abandoned child, and instead of contacting the authorities, you just took her home." Said like that, it sounded terrible, criminal even. "I know I should have followed procedures," Adam admitted, "but she was so scared. And now we've formed a family. I want to do the right thing, legalize everything." The woman peered at him over her glasses. "Mr. Moore, children aren't stray cats that you can just adopt. There are laws, procedures. I understand. That's why I'm here." The standard procedure would be to refer the minor to Child Protective Services. She would be in the custody of the state while they search for relatives, and only then, if no one claims her, would she enter the adoption queue. Adam's stomach sank. The thought of Emily in an institutional shelter, away from him, was unbearable. "And is there no other option? We've been together for almost 2 months. She trusts me. She's happy." The woman sighed, seeming momentarily more human. "There's the possibility of provisional guardianship while the case is investigated. But we would need a social worker's report, a psychological evaluation, proof of income, a fixed residence." "I have all of that," Adam interrupted, hope growing. "I can bring all the documents tomorrow. And the child will need to be registered. Without a birth certificate, nothing can be done." "How do I do that if I don't know when she was born? Or even her mother's last name?" "There's a procedure for delayed birth registration. It's complex but possible." Adam nodded, feeling a determination grow within him. "I'll do whatever it takes." He left the courthouse with a list of documents, Forms OS, and a stack of papers to fill out. The bureaucracy was daunting, the deadlines long, the guarantees non-existent. But as he drove back home to Emily, Adam felt a certainty he hadn't had before. This was the right thing to do, the necessary thing, the inevitable thing. When he arrived at the apartment, he found Emily already better, drawing at the living room table while Martha prepared lunch. Her face lit up when she saw Adam. "You're back early," she exclaimed, running to hug him. Adam picked her up, feeling the comforting warmth of her little body, the trust with which she nestled against him. "Yes, I'm back," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "I had to take care of some important things." "What things?" Adam smiled, pulling away to look into her eyes. "Things about you, Emily. About making you exist for the whole world." She frowned, confused. "But I already exist." Adam laughed softly. "Yes, you do. But the world doesn't know it yet, and it's time to officially introduce you." As Emily returned to her drawings, satisfied with the explanation, Adam looked at the stack of documents in his folder. The road would be long, difficult, full of obstacles, but he was determined. "If the world has never seen Emily," he muttered to himself, "then the world is going to have to meet her now." While the legal processes moved at their slow pace, Adam and Emily's life gained its own rhythm. April arrived with warmer days and bluer skies. The city bloomed in color after the harsh winter, and the same seemed to be happening inside the apartment that was now truly a home. Sunday mornings became sacred. Adam, who used to spend weekends sleeping in or working, now woke up early with an excitement he had never experienced before. The Sunday pancake ritual began by chance when Emily mentioned she had never had one. What do you mean, you've never had pancakes?" Adam asked, shocked by the revelation. Emily shrugged. In that way she did when talking about her past life. "Mommy didn't know how to make them, and we didn't go to restaurants." That same morning, Adam improvised a recipe he had seen online. The first attempts were disastrous. Pancakes raw on the inside, burnt on the outside, some so thin they looked like paper. Emily watched everything with fascination, sitting on a stool by the counter, her chin resting in her hands. "It's okay if it's not good," she consoled, seeing Adam's frustration. "We can have cereal." but Adam was determined. On the third try, he produced something that resembled a real pancake. He served it to Emily with butter and maple syrup, watching anxiously as she took the first bite. Her eyes widened, and a slow smile spread across her face. "This is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life," she declared, with the solemnity that only children can employ to describe sweets. From that day on, pancakes became a tradition. Adam perfected the recipe, experimented with variations, with fruit, chocolate, cinnamon. Emily helped mix the batter, her face concentrated, her tongue peeking out of the corner of her mouth as she stirred with all the strength of her little arms. "Stir faster," Adam encouraged, laughing at her enthusiasm. "I'm stirring as fast as I can," she would reply, determined. The kitchen always ended up a mess: flour on the floor, drops of batter on the counter, syrup sticking in unlikely places. But the sound of laughter and the sweet smell that filled the apartment were worth every minute of cleanup afterward. The visit to the library began as a necessity. Emily was growing intellectually every day, her curiosity insatiable, her questions increasingly complex. The few children's books Adam had bought were no longer enough. The public library was a few blocks from the apartment, an old building with imposing columns and a colorful, welcoming children's section. On the first visit, Emily stood paralyzed at the entrance, her eyes scanning the shelves full of books. "Are they all real?" she whispered, as if in a sacred place. "Yes," Adam smiled, "and you can choose whichever ones you want to take home." Emily looked at him, incredulous. "How many?" "5 today. When you finish, we'll come back and get more." The selection was a serious process. Emily examined the covers, flipped through the pages, considered the illustrations with the seriousness of a literary critic. Adam watched, amazed at her concentration. "This one has a dragon," she pondered, showing him a book. "But this one has a girl astronaut." The dilemma was clear on her face. "We can take both," Adam suggested. Her eyes shone. "Really?" And so, the library became part of their routine. Twice a week, they would walk there together, return the old books and choose new ones. The librarian, a grey-haired lady with a kind smile, soon got to know them. "Your daughter is a voracious reader," she commented once as she checked out the books. "It's not common to see that in children so young." Adam didn't correct the mistake. He just smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest at hearing Emily called his daughter. The idea for the fort came on a rainy day. Emily was restless, confined inside the apartment, her body full of unspent energy. "What if we built a fort?" Adam suggested, remembering his own childhood. "A real fort?" Emily asked, her eyes wide. "Out of sheets and pillows, but it will feel real, I promise." They spent the entire afternoon on the construction. Adam gathered all the sheets, blankets and pillows from the apartment. They used chairs as supports, secured corners with heavy books, and adjusted the height with strategically placed brooms. Emily directed the operation with surprising authority. "This side is too low down," she would point out. "We need more space inside." When they finally finished, they had transformed the living room into an impressive structure. A ceiling of white sheets created a magical space, illuminated by the soft light filtering through the fabric. The floor was lined with soft pillows, creating a cozy nest. "It's perfect," Emily declared, crawling inside. Adam followed her, surprised to find that even though he had to stoop, he fit comfortably. They lay side by side, looking up at the makeshift ceiling, listening to the sound of the rain outside. "This is the best day of my life," Emily whispered. Adam turned his head to look at her, his heart aching with the simplicity of the statement. How could something so simple, a fort of sheets on a rainy day, be the best day of someone's life? "We can do this whenever you want," he promised. Emily smiled, her eyes already heavy with sleep. She fell asleep right there, in the fort, as Adam told made-up stories about brave princesses and friendly dragons. Sundays in the park became sacred. After pancakes, they would walk together to the large city park. Emily, who was once shy and withdrawn in open spaces, now ran freely across the lawns, climbing on playground equipment, sliding and swinging higher and higher. "Look how high I am," she would shout from the swing, her face a mask of pure joy. Adam would watch her, feeling a mixture of pride and that constant fear that seemed to come with the package of caring for a child. What if she fell? What if she got hurt? But there was also a growing certainty. Emily needed this freedom. She needed to run, fall, get up, try again. She needed to feel the wind in her face, the grass under her feet, the sun in her hair. She needed to be a child. And so even with his heart in his throat, Adam let her fly. He watched from a distance, always ready to run if necessary, but allowing her to explore the world on her own. The evenings were perhaps the most precious moments. After her bath, in clean, fresh-smelling pajamas, Emily would snuggle into bed while Adam picked up the book of the night. "What chapter are we on today?" she would ask, though she knew exactly where they had left off. Adam would sit on the edge of the bed, open the book, and begin to read. His voice would change for each character, deep for the bear, high for the squirrel, mysterious for the narrator. Emily would listen, mesmerized, her eyes following the illustrations, occasionally asking questions or making predictions about what would happen next. Sometimes, she would fall asleep before the end of the chapter, her body gradually relaxing, her breathing becoming deeper. Adam would continue reading for a few more minutes, just for the pleasure of watching her sleep peacefully, safely at peace. In those moments, when the apartment was silent except for the soft sound of Emily's breathing, Adam felt a clarity he had never experienced before. This wasn't temporary. It wasn't just taking care of an abandoned child until something better came along. This was life. These were real days, true moments, memories being built, brick by brick. As he closed the book and turned off the light, leaving only the small star-shaped nightlight that Emily had insisted on buying, Adam finally understood. He wasn't just taking care of her, he was living with her, and he could no longer imagine a life different from this one. May arrived, bringing flowers to the city's gardens and unexpected news for Adam. The phone call came on a Tuesday while he was finishing a meeting at the office. "Mr. Moore, this is Sarah from Hope House, the women's shelter downtown." Adam felt his heart race. He had visited that shelter 3 weeks earlier as part of his systematic search for Chelsea. "Yes, I'm listening. We admitted a woman yesterday. She saw the photo you left with us. She says her name is Chelsea and that the girl in the picture is her daughter." Adam closed his eyes for a moment, trying to process the information. After months of searching, finally, "Is she there now?" "Yes, actually, she asked if you could come. She's not in good health." 20 minutes later, Adam parked near the small exposed brick building that housed Hope House. It was a simple place, but clean and well kept, a refuge for vulnerable women. Sarah was waiting for him at the entrance, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a weary expression. "Thank you for coming so quickly," she said, guiding him inside. "Chelsea is in a more private area. I need to warn you, she's very weak." They walked down a hallway to a small room at the back of the building. Sarah knocked softly on the door before opening it. "Chelsea, Mr. Moore is here." Adam entered and needed a few seconds for his eyes to adjust to the dimly lit room. A woman was sitting in an armchair near the window, covered by a thin blanket despite the warmth of the day. Her face was pale, almost translucent, framed by thin, dark hair that fell lifelessly around her features. But the eyes, Adam recognized them immediately. They were the same as Emily's, large, dark, expressive. "You found her," Chelsea said, her voice little more than a whisper. "You found my Emily." Adam approached slowly, sitting in the chair opposite her. Up close, he could see how sick she was. Her body, far too thin, seemed to almost disappear under the blanket. The bones of her face were prominent, her skin having a yellowish tone that spoke of liver dysfunction. "Yes," he replied softly. "She's fine. She's safe." Chelsea's eyes filled with tears that soon ran down her hollow cheeks. "Thank God," she whispered. "Every night I prayed that someone good would find her. Someone who could give her what I couldn't." Adam tried to contain the anger he still felt. How could a mother abandon her child on a park bench in winter? But looking at Chelsea now, the anger began to give way to something more complex. "Why did you leave her alone? She waited for days." Chelsea closed her eyes, as if the question was a physical pain. I knew I didn't have much time, she finally answered. The doctors gave me a few months, liver cancer, terminal stage. She paused, breathing with difficulty. I tried to find someone to stay with her, family, friends, social services, but I have no family. The friends I had were as lost as I was, and social services. I was afraid they'd put her in a bad place, that they'd separate her from me before I could say a proper goodbye. Adam listened in silence, trying to understand. So you decided to leave her on a park bench? Chelsea shook her head, tears falling silently. It wasn't like that, her voice faltered. I took her with me to the hospital that day. I was feeling very sick. While we were waiting, I asked her to stay on the bench in the square across the street for a few minutes while I talked to the receptionist. She took a deep breath, visibly gathering her strength to continue. I passed out inside the hospital. When I woke up, I was in the ICU. I had lost so much blood. I was sedated for 3 days. When I could finally speak, the first thing I asked about was Emily. Nobody knew who I was talking about. Nobody saw her. Adam closed his eyes, the pieces falling into place. 3 days. The same 3 days Emily had waited. When they released me, I ran to the bench. She wasn't there. I looked everywhere, asked everyone who passed by. I was too weak to go far. I ended up passing out again and went back to the hospital. Why didn't you call the police? Adam asked. A sad smile appeared on Chelsea's chapped lips. People like me avoid the police, Mr. Moore. Besides, I didn't have her papers. Emily was born in a shelter, never officially registered. I was afraid that if the police found her, she would end up lost in the system. Or worse, that they would blame me and take her away from me forever. Adam nodded slowly. The reality of people living on the margins of society was something he was only beginning to comprehend. What happened next? When I got out of the hospital the second time, I kept looking, but I was getting weaker and weaker. For the last few weeks, I could barely get out of bed. Then I saw your photo yesterday when I got here. Her eyes lit up briefly. She's so beautiful. She looks happy. She is happy, Adam confirmed. She's an incredible child. Chelsea smiled, a genuine smile that for a moment broke through the mask of illness, revealing the young mother she must have been. How did you find her? In a trash can, Adam answered honestly. She said she was protecting herself from the cold. Chelsea closed her eyes, the pain evident on her face. She was always smart. Even so little, she knew how to take care of herself. She opened her eyes again, now intense, fixed on Adam. Did you take good care of her? With everything I have, Adam replied, without hesitation. Does she ask about me? Adam hesitated. Sometimes. She draws you. She believes you're looking for her. Fresh tears streamed down Chelsea's face. I left her because I knew I wouldn't last, but I loved her with everything I had. Her voice was almost a whisper now. Please, don't bring her here. I don't want her to see me like this. Just promise me she'll be happy. I promise, Adam said, surprised by the firmness in his own voice. Chelsea seemed to relax at the promise. Slowly, with trembling hands, she opened a small bag that was beside her and took out 2 objects, an envelope and a small box. Now this is for Emily, she said, handing them to Adam. The necklace was hers when she was a baby. It belonged to my grandmother, the only valuable thing I have. Adam opened the box. Inside was a small silver necklace with a star-shaped pendant. Simple, delicate, perfectly suited for a child. And the letter. It explains everything. Why I left her, how much I loved her. Chelsea gripped Adam's hand with surprising strength. Give it to her. When the time is right, don't tell her I was weak. Tell her I left her with love. Adam nodded, carefully placing the items in his pocket. How much time? He began, not knowing how to phrase the question. Give us a few weeks, maybe less, Chelsea replied, understanding the unasked question. It's okay. Now that I know she's safe, I can go in peace. They talked for a while longer. Chelsea told him about Emily's early years, how she started walking early, her first tooth, how she loved for her mother to sing her to sleep. Precious little stories that Adam would save for Emily someday. When they said goodbye, Adam promised to come back. They both knew there might not be time for a second visit. On his way out, Sarah caught up with him. She refused palliative care for a long time, she explained in a low voice. She only agreed to come here when she could no longer move on her own. The truth is, she probably won't last the week. Adam thanked her for the information and returned to his car. He sat there for a long time, the necklace and the letter weighing in his pocket. How would he tell Emily? When would be the right time? She was so young to understand death, to process abandonment, even if it was done out of love and desperation. He decided he would wait. He would wait until Emily was older, until she could understand the complexity of the situation. Until then, he would keep the necklace and the letter safe. And, in the meantime, he would press on with the adoption. He had already started the process, filled out countless forms, gone through interviews and home visits. Now, with Chelsea's location and her evident incapacity, the process could be expedited. Emily would have a name, documents, an official existence, and she would have a father, not by blood, but by choice. He started the car and drove home, to Emily, his heart torn between sadness for the mother she would lose and the determination to honor the promise he had just made. Emily would be happy, of that he was certain. Autumn painted the city in shades of red and gold when the envelope arrived. Adam recognized it immediately, court-headed paper, the same kind he had received so many times in recent months. But this one was different, thicker, final. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened the envelope. 6 months of waiting, forms, interviews, home visits, hearings. 6 months since he had found Chelsea in that shelter and heard her story. 4 months since her quiet passing. A departure Adam had kept secret from Emily, saving the necklace and letter for the right moment. The document was there, official and definitive. Legal recognition of full adoption. Emily Moore, no longer a child without a last name, without documents, invisible to the system. Now legally his daughter. Adam sat on the sofa, the paper still in his hands, unable to look away from the printed name. Emily Moore. 2 simple words that changed everything, that made official what his heart had known for a long time. The sound of the apartment door opening interrupted his thoughts. Martha, the nanny, came in with Emily, returning from school. At 5 years old, Emily now attended kindergarten, another hard-won normality, another document that had required complex explanations and some half-truths. "Guess what I did today?" Emily exclaimed, dropping her backpack on the floor and running to Adam as she did every day. "What?" he asked, quickly hiding the document under a magazine. "I painted a huge picture. The teacher said it's the most beautiful in the class." "It's true," Martha confirmed, smiling. "She got a gold star for it." "That's amazing." Adam hugged her, breathing in the smell of crayons and jelly sandwich that always accompanied her after school. "We need to celebrate." "Celebrate how?" Emily asked, her eyes lighting up. Celebrations, in their language, usually meant ice cream or pizza. "How about a special dinner? We can go to that Italian restaurant you like." "With spaghetti? With all the spaghetti you can eat?" Martha looked at Adam with curiosity. She knew him well enough to know that something more was going on. "Well, I'm heading out," she announced, grabbing her bag. "So tomorrow at the usual time?" "Actually, Martha," Adam hesitated, "I think we're going to take a few days off, maybe the whole week. I have some important news for Emily." Understanding dawned on the nanny's face. "The paperwork finally came through?" Adam nodded, feeling emotion tighten his throat. "Finally," Martha smiled, giving him a brief hug. "Congratulations, Adam. You both deserve it." After she left, Emily looked at Adam with her head tilted. "What paperwork? Is it a surprise?" Adam knelt to her level, his hands gently holding her small shoulders. "It is a very special surprise. But we'll talk about it during dinner, okay? Now, how about you go change while I get a few things ready?" Emily agreed, running to her room. No longer the guest room, but truly her space, with walls painted a soft yellow, children's furniture, and shelves full of books and toys. Alone, Adam picked up the phone and made a quick call. He had been planning this moment for weeks, waiting only for the official confirmation. The Italian restaurant was just a few blocks from the apartment. It was a familiar place, with checkered tablecloths and an elderly owner who always made a point of personally greeting regular customers. "Signor Moore, Signorina Emily," Paolo exclaimed as he saw them enter. "Your special table is ready." Emily looked around, surprised. Their usual table was different, a special tablecloth, flowers in the center, even a small candle. "Why is it special today?" she asked as she sat down. "Because today is a very important day," Adam replied, trying to control the nervousness in his voice. After Paolo left with their orders, spaghetti and meatballs for Emily, lasagna for Adam, the moment he had been waiting for arrived. "Emily," he began, "do you remember when we started trying to get your documents so you could go to school and the doctor?" She nodded, licking her lips in anticipation of the dessert that would surely come after dinner. "I remember. You said I needed to exist on paper, not just for real." "Exactly. And do you remember that for that to happen, we needed a judge to say that I'm your dad?" Emily frowned slightly. "But you're already my dad." Adam felt his heart swell at those simple words. "Yes, in the ways that matter, I already am. But now..." He took the envelope from his coat pocket and opened it. "Now it's official. For everyone." He placed the document on the table, turning it so Emily could see. She leaned forward, her curious eyes scanning the paper full of words she couldn't yet fully read. "What does it say?" "It says that you are my daughter. Legally, officially, forever?" Adam pointed to a specific line. "And it says that your name is now Emily Moore." Her eyes widened. "Moore like you?" "Yes, just like me. We have the same name now." Emily was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. Then a slow smile began to spread across her face. "So you're my real dad now? And I'm your real daughter?" "Yes, Emily, forever." She jumped out of her chair and ran to Adam's side, throwing her arms around his neck with such force that he almost lost his balance. "I knew it. I knew you would stay with me forever." Adam hugged her back, not caring about the tears that were now streaming freely down his face, nor the emotional glances of the other customers. Back at the apartment, while Emily was taking a bath, Adam retrieved a package he had hidden in the living room closet. Inside was a silver frame, elegant but simple, chosen especially for the occasion. Carefully, he placed inside it the photograph they had taken at the park weeks before. In the image, he and Emily were sitting on a swing, laughing at something they could no longer remember. Their faces shone with a pure, genuine, unmistakable happiness. It was his favorite picture of them. When Emily came out of the bath, already in her pajamas and with damp hair, Adam called her into the living room. He had placed the frame on the mantelpiece, in a place of honor. "I have one more surprise," he said, pointing to the photo. Emily approached, her bare feet silent on the carpet. She looked at the image for a long moment, her little face serious and contemplative. "Do you like it?" Adam asked, unsure of her silence. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and gently touched the glass of the frame, tracing the outline of their faces. "And now it feels like I've always belonged here," she said finally, her voice small but full of certainty. Adam felt a wave of emotion so intense that for a moment he couldn't speak. He knelt beside her, looking at the photo that now visually officialized what the documents legally affirmed. "Because you do," he replied, his voice hoarse with contained emotion. Emily turned to him, her dark eyes so much like Chelsea's, full of a wisdom that surpassed her age. "I know," she said simply, as if it were the most obvious truth in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe, despite all the documents, hearings, and official stamps, the truth had always been there since that cold night when their paths crossed. Maybe Emily had always been a part of him, even before they met. A missing piece in his life, fitting perfectly into the empty space he didn't even know existed. That night, as he tucked Emily into bed, Emily Moore, his daughter, Adam felt a peace he had never experienced before. A sense of completeness, of purpose fulfilled. "Good night, Emily Moore," he said, testing the full name, savoring how right it sounded. "Good night, Daddy," she replied, already half asleep. Daddy, no longer Adam. The transition had happened naturally, without discussion or planning, just like everything in their journey together. Returning to the living room, Adam stopped again in front of the framed photo. Two smiling faces, two lives intertwined by chance, fate or some greater force he didn't dare to name. A family, now also on paper, but mainly, irrefutably, in the heart. A year had passed since the judge signed the papers, making official what their hearts already knew. A year of firsts. The first day of school, the first birthday party with friends, the first visit from grandparents who traveled to meet the granddaughter who won their hearts in minutes. The apartment had changed too. It was no longer the meticulously organized space of a single man, nor the temporary chaos of the first months of adjustment. It was a home, with photos on the walls, drawings on the fridge, and an ever-growing collection of children's books on the living room shelf. The mornings had a routine they both cherished. Adam would wake up first, preparing breakfast while Emily still slept. Pancakes on Sundays, cereal on weekdays, eggs on Fridays. Small rituals that brought structure and security. "Emily, time to get up," Adam would call, knocking gently on the yellow bedroom door. Invariably, she would ask for just 5 more minutes, before appearing in the kitchen with disheveled hair and a face still marked by the pillow. The walk to school was a 10-minute journey they both valued. Emily would tell him about her dreams from the previous night, or share elaborate theories about why the sky is blue or how fish breathe underwater. At the school gate, Adam would kneel for one last hug. "Have a great day, Emily Moore." "You too, Daddy Moore," she would reply with a smile, before running off to join her friends. Adam would watch for a moment before heading to the office, where pictures of her decorated his desk, prompting questions and smiles from colleagues who still marveled at the transformation of the once reserved Adam Moore. The evenings were their favorite time. After dinner and a bath came the sacred ritual of reading. Emily, already in bed, would choose the book of the night while Adam settled beside her. "It's time for bed," said the farmer. Adam would read, his voice changing for each farm animal to Emily's delight. Sometimes she would fall asleep in the middle of the story. Other times, she would insist on just one more chapter, please, with those eyes that Adam found increasingly difficult to say no to. It wasn't a perfect life. There were occasional tantrums, low marks in math, nightmares that still woke her up sometimes, calling for a mother who was no longer there. But it was real and solid. How family built not by blood but by chance, choice and love. It was on a quiet spring Sunday that Adam decided it was time. Emily was turning 6 the following week. It seemed like the right moment to share the last piece of the puzzle that was her story. After breakfast, instead of suggesting their usual walk to the park, Adam sat with Emily on the living room sofa. "I have something important to talk to you about," he began, feeling the weight of the necklace in his shirt pocket. Emily looked at him with curiosity, sensing the seriousness in his voice. "Is it something bad?" "No, it's not bad," Adam smiled to reassure her. "It's about your mum." Emily's eyes widened. They rarely talked about Chelsea. Not because it was forbidden, but because Emily seemed to have accepted her absence in a way that Adam still found surprising for someone so young. "Did you find her?" Emily asked, her voice suddenly small. Adam nodded, taking her hand. "Yes, I found her, a while ago." He then told her, in simple but honest words, how he had searched for Chelsea for months, how he had found her in the shelter, already very sick, how she hadn't abandoned Emily by choice but due to circumstances beyond her control. She was very sick, Emily. The kind of sick that doctors can't cure. "Did she die?" Emily asked directly, her eyes fixed on Adam's. "Yes, sweetie." Shortly after we met, Emily was silent for a long moment, processing the information. Adam waited, giving her the space she needed. "Did she think of me?" she finally asked. "Before she went away." "She thought of you every day," Adam replied, his voice thick with emotion. "You were the most important person in the world to her." Slowly, he took the small silver necklace with the star-shaped pendant out of his pocket. "She asked me to give this to you. It was yours when you were a baby. Before that, it belonged to your great-grandmother." Emily took the necklace reverently, her small fingers tracing the outline of the star. "I remember this," she whispered. She said it was magic, that the stars would watch over me. Adam then took the envelope, slightly crumpled with time, from his other pocket. She also wrote this letter for you. Do you want me to read it? Emily nodded, moving closer to Adam as he carefully opened the envelope. The letter was simple, written in a trembling hand. It spoke of unconditional love, of dreams for Emily's future, of regrets and hopes. It explained, in gentle words, why she had to leave her on that bench, trusting that the universe would take better care of her than she ever could. When Adam finished reading, they both had tears in their eyes. Emily held the necklace against her chest, as if wanting to keep it as close to her heart as possible. She wanted me to be happy, Emily said, her voice choked but firm. More than anything in the world, Adam confirmed. Emily looked at the necklace, then at Adam, her eyes shining with tears. She loved me, and you love me too. Now I have two hearts with me. Adam felt his own heart expand in his chest, filled with a love so immense it seemed impossible to contain. He pulled Emily into a hug, feeling her small body shake with soft sobs. And you are the center of both, he said softly, kissing her hair. They stayed like that for a long time, embracing on the sofa as the sunlight created dancing patterns through the curtains. There was no need for more words. The truth was there between them. A complete story now, with all the pieces in their places. Later that day, as they prepared dinner together, Emily asked for help putting on the necklace. Adam carefully fastened it around her neck, watching how the small silver star shone against her skin. It looks beautiful on you, he commented. Emily touched the pendant, a serene smile on her face. It's like having both of you always with me. At night, after the usual story, when Adam stood up to leave the room, Emily held his hand. Thank you for finding me, Daddy, she said simply. Adam felt his throat tighten with emotion. You're the one who found me, Emily, he replied. I was just passing by that square. She shook her head, with that wisdom that sometimes startled him. No, we found each other. It was meant to be. Adam smiled, unable to disagree. Maybe she was right. Maybe there were greater forces at work on that cold winter night. Fate, coincidence, or simply the ordinary magic of life bringing together two souls who needed each other. Good night, Emily Moore, he whispered, adjusting the blanket around her. Good night, Daddy, she replied, her eyes already closed. As he left the room, Adam paused to observe the scene for a moment. His daughter sleeping peacefully, the star necklace glowing softly in the lamplight, books piled on the nightstand, the teddy bear worn from constant hugs, an image of peace, of belonging, of home, a real family, a new beginning. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.